I still remember the moment I walked into our house after a long week away. The silence was thick, almost oppressive. I could feel the weight of the emptiness pressing down on me, even before I saw anything out of place. I was exhausted from hours of flights and layovers, but my stomach was already twisting with a strange, gnawing sensation. Something wasn't right. I knew it, even before I set down my bag. I hadn't been gone long, just 4 days. My wife Emily had always been good at hiding her little secrets. She was charming, seductive even, with a smile that could disarm anyone. But I always sensed a flicker of something else behind her eyes, restlessness, a need to keep things hidden. I brushed it off, convincing myself it was just my overactive imagination. I'd trusted her blindly, probably too blindly. As I stepped into the living room, the scent hit me first, something sharp, a little floral but with a strange undertone. A faint trace of perfume I didn't recognize, mixed with a hint of cologne that wasn't mine. My heart kicked up a notch and I paused for a second, listening. Nothing. Silence. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe I was imagining things. But then I noticed the pile of unopened mail and the way the cushions on the couch looked slightly out of place, like someone had been sitting or lying there recently. I decided to check my phone, something I never do when I first get home, but that day I just felt off. I scrolled through my messages and then I saw it. A photo, a message from Jake, my best friend, the biggest piece of shit I'd ever trusted. The photo was of Emily. She was lying on the bed, her hair messy, her face flushed. There was a hint of a smile, but it was the message that crushed me. Can't wait to see you tonight, just us. I blinked at it, my stomach twisting so hard I thought I'd throw up. That was the moment I understood everything. She'd been cheating on me, probably for a while. I don't know how long they'd been sneaking around, but it was absolutely clear now. The worst part, I got the evidence from their secret messages the day before our wedding. I read those words over and over like a punch to the gut. I'd been planning the biggest day of my life and she was in bed with my best friend. Not just that, she wanted to see him tonight, not me. My hands felt clammy. My palms were slick with sweat and my heart was pounding so loud I thought the whole house would hear it. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was stand there and stare at the screen, feeling the cold reality settle over me like a shroud. I knew I couldn't confront her right then. Not yet. I needed a plan. I needed to think, to breathe, and figure out what revenge would look like. Because I wasn't the kind of guy who walked away without making sure they understood exactly what they lost. I trusted her, loved her, and now I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, and the shock was still wearing off. I sat on the edge of the sofa, fighting the nausea, trying to process what this all meant. The house was still and quiet, but inside, my head was racing. I had a choice: confront her and fight in the moment, or bide my time and carefully craft a plan to make her regret every single lie she told. I knew one thing for sure: she was not getting away with this, not without consequences. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. The room felt smaller, oppressive even, like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a declaration of war. I would get my revenge and I would make her pay for this. She'd never see it coming, and when I was done, she'd realize she'd lost everything she thought she had. And so, with that resolve burning deep inside, I started planning. What came next would change everything. I just didn't know how much yet. I spent the next few hours turning over everything I'd seen and felt. My mind kept circling back to that photo, those messages, her voice on the phone the day before. It was all too clear now. Emily had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. I remembered the small signs, her being distracted, late nights she said were work, the way she'd brush off my questions or change the subject when I'd ask. About her phone, I'd always brushed it off as paranoia, but now I knew better. I grabbed my laptop and started digging through her phone, her emails, her social media accounts, anything that might give me more proof. I needed to see how deep this went. I wasn't about to confront her blind, not without something concrete. I needed leverage, and I wasn't leaving anything to chance. The more I looked, the more I found. Hidden messages, secret photos, even a fake email account she'd set up just to hide her tracks. It was all laid out there in black and white. The worst part, I could almost feel the betrayal deep in my chest like a hot blade twisting. My stomach clenched every time I saw her words, her fake smiles, her desperate attempts to hide what she was doing. God, I'd loved her. I'd trusted her with everything. And now I realized she'd been lying to me the entire time. It made my skin crawl. I had to act fast. I didn't want her to get wind I was onto her. I started drafting a plan, how I'd catch her in the act and how I'd make her regret everything. I knew I couldn't just go in guns blazing. She was slick, smart even, so I decided to set a trap. I'd plan a fake message, something so obvious she'd think I was clueless. That way I'd catch her red-handed. I remembered her phone password, something easy I'd always joked about. I planned to sneak into her room that night, grab her phone and send the message pretending to be her. I'd make sure she saw it and I'd be waiting. I wanted her to think I was completely blind, caught off guard. That's when I'd strike. But even as I prepared, my hands trembled. My whole body was tense, and I could feel my jaw clenching so tightly that my teeth ached. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming whatever shred of dignity I had left. I wanted her to know I was no fool, and I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I got my plan in place, and as I looked at the clock ticking closer to midnight, I felt a strange mixture of adrenaline and dread. I wasn't sure what would happen when I finally confronted her, or if I even could. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without a reckoning. I could already taste the bitterness in my mouth, the sharpness of my resolve. Whatever came next, I'd face it. And I'd make sure she understood that betraying me wasn't just a mistake, it was a mistake she'd live to regret. The house was silent again, but inside my mind was loud, full of plans, anger, and a quiet promise to myself. She'd have to pay, one way or another. That night I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling my pulse hammering in my ears. Every minute that ticked by felt like an eternity. I kept replaying everything, her face, those messages, the way she'd lied to me so effortlessly. My stomach kept twisting, a mixture of rage and betrayal boiling up inside me. This wasn't just petty revenge. It was justice. Or at least that's what I told myself. I had everything ready, the fake message on her phone, the plan to be waiting in the shadows when she fell for it. I'd chosen the perfect moment when she'd be most vulnerable. She'd think I was completely clueless, and I'd catch her red-handed. My palms were slick with sweat as I slipped out of bed, pulled on my jacket, and tiptoed toward her room. The house was dark, the only sound my own breathing and the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs. I eased open her door slowly, watching her sleep. She looked peaceful, innocent even. That image made my stomach turn. I reached for her phone on the nightstand, heart pounding so loudly I thought she might wake up. I managed to unlock it, easy enough. Her code was her birthday. I quickly sent the fake message from her account, then stepped back into the shadows. From my hiding spot, I watched her phone light up with the new message. Her eyes fluttered open immediately. She stared at her phone for a long moment, then sat up abruptly. Her face was frozen in shock, then a mask of guilt, then anger. "Oh my God," she whispered, voice trembling. "What the hell?" I didn't say anything, just crossed my arms, watching her. She looked around, panicked, her breathing shallow. Her fingers trembled as she stared at the screen, reading the message I'd sent. I saw her eyes flicker with fear and confusion. She was trying to play it off like it wasn't her, like it was some mistake, but I knew better. She finally looked at me, her face pale. You set me up," she whispered, voice cracking. "How long have you known?" "Long enough," I said coldly. "I found your secret messages yesterday. Your little lie about going out of town, that was bullshit. I saw everything. The truth was right in front of me all along." She scrambled to grab her phone, desperately trying to delete the message, but I stepped closer. "Too late for that," I said. "You think I don't know what you've been doing, with Jake, with everyone probably. How long has this been going on?" She looked like she was about to cry, her eyes darting around, searching for a way out. "It was just a mistake. It didn't mean anything," she mumbled. "Please, I didn't want you to find out like this." "Too late for apologies," I snapped. "You want to cheat on me? Fine, but you don't screw with my life and expect me to just take it. I've had enough. You lied, you betrayed me, and now I need to decide what comes next." She begged, tears welling up in her eyes, trying to look innocent, but I saw through her. I saw the damage she'd done, and I was done pretending I didn't know. I already had everything I needed to make her regret this. I was calm on the outside, but inside a storm was brewing. The plan was in motion. I'd waited long enough. Tomorrow, she'd wake up to a different world, one where she'd realize she'd lost everything she thought she had. And I was going to be the one to make sure she remembered that. The night was still thick with tension, but I knew this was just the beginning of what was coming. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise, the house still eerily silent. I hadn't slept much, just enough to keep my mind sharp. I was already planning the next steps. I had to make sure she felt the full weight of what she'd done, but I also needed to keep my emotions in check. If I let anger take over, I'd ruin everything. I got dressed quietly, making sure not to wake her. My stomach was still in knots, but I felt a strange clarity. This was the moment to execute the plan I'd been constructing all night. I decided to leave her a little note, just enough to make her realize I knew everything, then disappear for a while. I wanted her to feel the shock, the panic, the regret. I left the note on the kitchen table, writing simply, "Your secrets are not safe anymore. We're done. Don't try to contact me." No explanation, no pleading, just that. I slid it into an envelope, sealed it, and left it on the table where she'd find it when she woke up. Before I left, I took her phone and hid it in my pocket. I also made sure to leave my phone behind, with a new number I'd set up just for this, so she wouldn't be able to track me. I didn't want her to find me immediately. I wanted her to have time to realize what was happening, time to feel the chaos she'd unleashed. I drove to a nearby park, a quiet place where I could sit and breathe without her potential interference. As I parked and got out, I felt the tightness in my chest loosened just a little. The cool morning air hit my face, sharp and refreshing, almost symbolic of starting fresh, even if it hurt like hell. I pulled out a pack of cigarettes I'd bought the night before, lighting one and watching the smoke curl up into the sky. I was trying to keep my head clear, but my mind kept replaying her face when she saw the message. The shock, the betrayal. She'd always been so confident, so manipulative. Now she looked like a cornered animal. I knew I had to stay calm. If I acted impulsively, I'd ruin everything. I needed to be patient, to wait for her to come crawling back or not. Either way, I'd already made my decision. This was just the beginning. While I sat there, I started drafting a text message to her, one that would hit her hard but leave her with no doubt about what I was capable of. "You thought you could get away with it, huh? Playing with my trust, lying to my face. Well, now you're going to see what happens when you push someone too far. Don't bother trying to contact me. I won't part of your game anymore." I hesitated for a moment, then hit send. Watching the message disappear into the ether, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. It was like stepping into a new chapter, one I didn't want but knew I had to face. As the hours dragged on, I waited for her reaction. I knew she'd be panicked, confused, maybe even furious. That's what I wanted. I wanted her to understand that her world was collapsing, and that I was the one pulling the strings now. This was just the start of the revenge I'd planned. She'd betrayed me, and now it was her turn to feel the cold sting of loss. I was done playing nice. The next move was hers, and I was ready to see her squirm. Later that afternoon, I got a text from her, short and trembling, like she was barely holding it together. It read, "What the hell is going on? Why are you ignoring me?" I stared at it for a long moment. My fingers itched to reply, to rip her apart with words, but I knew better. I wanted her to feel the chaos, not have me give her the satisfaction of a quick reply. Instead, I sent back, "You lied to me at every turn. I found your secret messages, your fake accounts, everything. You thought you could keep this hidden forever, didn't you?" The message sat there unanswered, but I knew she was reading it. I could almost hear her panic from miles away. I kept my phone tucked away, watching the clock. I'd set everything in motion. The house was empty now, quiet except for the occasional car passing outside. I took a deep breath and leaned back against the park bench, feeling the cool breeze brush my face. I'd done what I needed to do, the first step to reclaim what's mine. Soon enough, I saw her approaching, her face pale, eyes darting around like she was looking for an escape route. She looked frantic, her hands trembling. When she saw me sitting there, her jaw tightened, but she didn't speak right away. Instead, she paused, hesitation in her eyes. Why are you doing this?" She finally managed, voice cracking. "I'm doing this because you deserve to be caught," I said coldly. And because I want you to understand what betrayal costs. She looked like she was about to cry, but then her eyes flashed with something darker. You think this is revenge? You're just making things worse. You don't know what you're doing. I shrugged. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. I've been planning this for a while. You just didn't see it coming, did you? She swallowed hard, then looked away. You don't get it. You're overreacting. This is just a mistake. A mistake? I interrupted sharply. You're sleeping with my best friend while I'm out of town, and you call that a mistake. That's betrayal, criminal, personal, unforgivable, and I'm going to make sure you regret it every single day. She looked furious now, her fists clenching. You're not going to get away with this. Oh, I think I already am, I said with a twisted smile. The worst part, you thought you could hide everything, but I've got all the evidence. Every secret message, every lie, every moment you thought was yours alone. And now it's game over. I saw her eyes flicker with a mixture of desperation and anger. She was trying to figure out her next move, but she knew she was cornered. I'd played my hand perfectly, and she was about to pay the price. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small envelope, the one I'd kept hidden for this exact moment. Here, your stuff, I said, dropping it into her hands. Keys to the house, your phone, everything, and I want you to leave. Don't bother trying to contact me. You've lost me, and you're about to lose everything else. She hesitated, then snatched the envelope, her face twisted in rage. You'll regret this, she spat. Maybe, I said calmly, but I won't be the one crying in the end. You already did that when you decided to cheat and lie. Now you get to live with the consequences. She turned sharply and stormed off, her footsteps heavy against the pavement. I watched her go, feeling a strange sense of relief, even if it was tinged with sadness. I'd done what I had to do. I had taken everything back from her, piece by piece. As she disappeared out of sight, I took a deep breath and let the silence settle around me. I knew this wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where I finally took control, and she learned the hard way that betrayal always comes with a price. For now, I walked away, knowing I'd never be that naive fool again. Trust was gone, but I'd rebuild. The only thing I had left was myself, and that was enough. Weeks passed, and the house felt emptier than ever. Every corner, every piece of furniture seemed to echo her absence. I threw myself into work, into rebuilding my sense of stability, but the ache of betrayal lingered like a dull ache behind my eyes. Still, I knew I'd done what I set out to do. I'd taken back my dignity, my control, and I wasn't going to let her take any more from me. I handed over the keys to the house officially, signed the papers, watched her drive away with her bags. Her face looked blank, hollow almost, like she'd lost herself in the chaos she'd created. Watching her leave felt like finally closing a chapter I never wanted to open. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness, but honestly, it was better than the constant ache of knowing. She'd lied, cheated, and betrayed me. That night I sat on my new couch, my house, my rules, and finally allowed myself to breathe. I poured a drink, looked around at the space I'd reclaimed, and thought about everything that had happened. The pain, the anger, the betrayal, they all had a place in my story, but they didn't define me. Not anymore. I realized something important. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that revenge, when done with intention and resolve, can be a form of healing. It's about reclaiming your power, not just hurting someone else. That realization brought a strange sense of peace. I'd taken control of a situation that felt out of my hands for too long. I'd responded with clarity, decisiveness, and purpose. In the end, I knew I'd be all right. It wasn't about getting even in the traditional sense. It was about breaking free from a toxic cycle, about understanding that some betrayals are so profound they leave scars, yes, but also serve as a wake-up call. A reminder that sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and rebuilding better, stronger, and wiser. I didn't contact her again after she left. I didn't need to. I'd made my point. And as I looked out the window at the quiet night, I felt a weight lift I hadn't realized I'd been carrying for months. I was done with her lies. I was done with the pain. Now I was just done. It's a harsh lesson, but I'd rather be alone and free than trapped in a web of deception. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. But in those broken seconds, you learn who you really are, someone who can face betrayal and still find the strength to move on. And that strength, that's something no one can take away from you, not ever.